Huge open worlds are a joy to play around in, and the Fallout series has given us some of the best out there. With the new Fallout likely being years away, you could go back through the series, sure, or you could check out some other games that share similar values with Bethesda's legendary franchise. Here are 10 games to play if you're a fan of the Fallout series. Number 10. Bioshock. The Bioshock series might not have the same kind of sandbox style that Fallout does, but there are still a lot of elements that the two games share. Besides both being first-person shooters, both games have an eerie dystopian approach to their stories, characters, and themes. Both worlds are about taking the worst of humanity and trying to find the good in it. And besides the story, Bioshock has a very interesting way of showcasing its abilities and beautiful graphics that Fallout fans would find refreshing. Number 9. Red Dead Redemption. The Red Dead Redemption games and Fallout have completely different worlds. A dystopian landscape ravaged by nuclear war couldn't be further from the Old West, but the two games still have a lot in common. Their open world approach to gameplay is very similar, plus there's an element of the wandering cowboy that flows through both series. It has the player exploring the world and helping out strangers along the way. That kind of cowboy storytelling is the common thread between these vastly different games, but one that's worth giving a tug. Number 8. I Am Alive. From a gameplay standpoint, I Am Alive is a refreshing change for Fallout fans who love the game's post-apocalyptic themes. I Am Alive also takes place in a post-apocalyptic city filled with dangerous people out to do no good. However, I Am Alive focuses more on climbing and platforming exploration rather than being a hardcore stat-filled RPG. But still, the themes of trying to survive at all costs and trying to be a decent person in an indecent world carry over to both games. Of course, it's hard to top Fallout's expansive sandbox, but that doesn't make a linear approach to storytelling any less worthy. Number 7. Resistance. The Resistance series is about an alien invasion that forces humanity to unite and push back together. Both Resistance and Fallout utilise a first-person view for their action. However, Resistance focuses more on a linear style with levels rather than an open-world sandbox that allows for exploration. Both games do share a very similar aesthetic though. The Resistance invasion occurs in the past, so a lot of the atmosphere and ambience reflect nostalgia. Fallout is very similar as it also has a very 1950s atomic punk vibe. Number 6. The Outer Worlds. Fallout and the Outer Worlds are both very similar to each other. They have an open world, first-person gameplay style that involves travelling to different villages or worlds and helping people along the way. There's also an RPG and morality function that allows players to have multiple endings. Essentially, the Outer World feels like Fallout, but in space, but the fact the player gets to physically travel to different planets in a spaceship and use a wide variety of weapons is a lot of fun. Number 5. Killzone. Despite taking place in the future, Killzone also has a lot of nostalgic imagery that lends itself to a steampunk style. It's probably more similar to Resistance in that its levels are designed to be linear and direct the player in a certain direction. Fallout doesn't do any of this, as even the missions can be accomplished in a variety of different ways. Killzone doesn't have a lot of those RPG elements that you would find in a Fallout game, but it delivers on the action, and with a total of 6 games in the series across PS3, PSP and PS4, there's a deep universe to invest in. Number 4. The Metro series. Since the first Metro game essentially has the same starting premise as Fallout, the games are indeed very similar, though Metro has a much more horrific edge to its nuclear post-apocalyptic landscape, with mutants, monsters and underground societies. Fallout also has a lot of these things, but it doesn't lean into the horror territory. Instead, it gives its dystopian world more of a fantasy vibe, but fans of one should be fans of the other. Number 3. Mad Max. When it comes to post-apocalyptic movies, Mad Max is one of the most well-known and successful franchises, so obviously depicting it in a game would be very similar to the world of Fallout. The great thing about dystopian games is that there are many ways in which the apocalypse could play out. The destructive wasteland of Fallout is completely different from what Mad Max offers, but they both have a similar vibe, so fans of the genre can get something new. Number 2. Skyrim. One of the best parts about the Fallout experience is just exploring the vast world it takes place in. If that's what players are looking for, then Skyrim would be right up their alley. The two games exist in completely different settings. Fallout is a dystopian story, while Skyrim is strongly rooted in fantasy. However, the themes and general ideas of both games remain the same. It's all about traversing a large world and helping or hurting those you meet along the way. Throw in some heavy RPG elements and you'll find that both games actually have a lot more in common than one might think. Number 1. Borderlands. From a purely formulaic standpoint, Borderlands and Fallout are essentially the same thing. They have a first-person viewpoint with RPG elements and a sandbox style that allows players to pick up missions and execute them at their discretion. The only difference between the games is all on the surface level. Borderlands has a much more comedic tone with a cartoonish style. It also leans more heavily into science fiction as the games take place on fictional planets. Those elements aside though, they both have very similar experiences. And if you can't wait for a new Fallout game, this is the series that you need to check out. And that is our list. Of course, there are plenty more games that could have taken a spot here, so I'm inviting you to head to the comments and throw some suggestions down there. Don't forget to like, subscribe and tap the bell icon so that you're notified whenever we've got new stuff for you to watch. I've been Chris, you've been gorgeous, and I'll see you on the next one. Till then, cheers my dears.